Back here on One Bills Live, and it's time now for our weekly segment with former Bills center Mitch Morse. It's called From the Armchair, and it's presented by Raymore and Flanagan. Raymore and Flanagan is a proud partner of the Buffalo Bills. Well, I have to believe, Mitch, that Sunday's performance by Buffalo's offense is something that probably fills you with a sense of pride, I would think. 249 yards on the ground. And as we know, offensive linemen love going forward a whole lot more than they do going backwards. So just your overall thoughts on the 249-yard rushing effort by the Buffalo Bills.
Well, Chris, it filled me up with something. Joy, lust. I don't know what it was.
Lust.
But whatever it was, I appreciated it very much. Yeah, listen, we knew what this game was going to be about. You have two guys coming in, tackle-wise, who hadn't gotten many reps, and you're going against a formidable front that rushes the passer. You had a game plan, well executed, and you go with the flow. And I think that's a real promising thing to see coming up here as we go on this little late season run, is that you can be pliable with game plans. You can see how to attack a defense. You can accentuate your strengths while diminishing your deficits, right? And that's what we saw in this game plan. And I think that was really fun to see. And you saw a little physicality rather, that also got a little bit of lustful juice in this body of mine. It was just a really fun game to watch. It was a real good tone setter to set this team up going forward in December.
Yeah, and the thing that really set the tone was when Josh went over, slid, and took a late hit, and all of a sudden it kind of flipped a switch on the attitude of the entire offense. Certainly it led to, I think that was on the drive that they got the field goal on right before halftime. And they come out after halftime, and the defense actually takes over and gets a couple of quick turnovers, gives the offense the lead, and for the first time they're front running. I mean, that game turned on in the last 2 minutes of the first half and the first 3 minutes of the second half. All of a sudden, it turned into a laugher.
Yeah, I would agree. And to your point, I think having those two turnovers, overcoming that with just one score by the opposing team, and then having those really important 8 minutes in a game, right? You hear folks talk about it, the middle eight. That kind of sets the tone for that back half of the game. And the Buffalo Bills not only capitalized on that, they played the style of football that they've been looking for, which is that playoff caliber, championship caliber coach speak that we hear. But it's true, and you saw it. And I think you can, any Joe Schmo watching that can attest to the fact that that was a physical team, the Bills, that being a physical team that was executing well and feeding energy to each other. And really kind of the first time this season we've seen a team, the Buffalo team rather, going into a hostile environment on the road and kind of imposing their will, especially in that second half of that game.
I'm not trying to take anything away from the offensive line with their performance in this one, not to mention the fact that the tight ends and receivers blocked their bahookies off as well. But on a given play, when maybe the hole created isn't what it's supposed to be, or the Steelers or whatever the opponent is just happens to have a better call on a given run play, how much does James Cook bail out the offense at times? Because I'm thinking of these runs that he just bends back the other way and just outraces a cornerback to the edge, just completely defeats the defensive play call, makes something out of nothing, if you will. I just feel like we've seen him do that a handful of times almost every week.
Yeah, Chris, dude, he is everything you want in a running back. He gives you confidence as an offensive lineman to, you hear the old adage, just have a hat on a hat. That's the most important thing. And this team's doing that, of course, also displacing defensive linemen. But you have a guy who has contact balance. You have a guy who has the speed. He's got the vision. He's got the endurance. He's the total package. And he's a great teammate. Like, he's not the most vocal dude on planet Earth, but he's always there for his guys. He's always got the guy's back, and he runs hard. And that's all you want in a running back. He's the full package, dude. Like, and he was there time and time again in the pass game and the run game, making something out of nothing. Of course, there were a few holes that were my grandma could have walked through, but the reality of the NFL is that's not there that often. And when you have a guy like that who's able to make something out of nothing and do it time and time again, game and game again, and then the biggest moments when you need him to perform is there, it's poetry, man, truly.
One of the things that came out of this game was the fact the Bills kind of repeated their run game over and over and over. Now, it's all great, but as an offensive lineman, you're thinking at some point this is going to get really hard. You know what I mean? You're expecting that defense to like hammer you all of a sudden. You're going to run that again. We're going to make you pay for it. So you kind of anticipate the defense making that really hard for you, but man, they never did. I mean, how's that feel for an offensive lineman when you go out there thinking, man, is this going to work again?
Yeah, well, I would assume that the offensive linemen were hoping you kept running the play, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. Yes, you understand that especially a very, historically stout run defense is going to make adjustments and stuff. But it kind of blew out the adage and the old verbiage that says, nowadays, don't just run the football, do something just because you're a physical offensive line. Don't do the same play. This is what we do. Well, kind of spit in my face. Joe Brady did that, and it worked out really well. So I just love what it was doing. It was a tone setter. You saw the guys roll with it. It gave the guys energy, and I think you guys alluded to it. The thing that kind of fired me up a little bit, when you look at physicality as a full, of course, you look at offensive line, defensive line, big hits. What I do as an ex-player is I look, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is I look at the receivers. How are they blocking? And they were asked to do a lot, especially in the backside of that outside zone that they were running to the left about 30 or 40 times. And you see guys like Khalil Shakir, Tyrell Shavers more than once fitting in between the tight end and tackle and really digging guys out. And when you have that fires guys up. That's infectious. That's what you're talking about when you have a physical ass team. That's what you want. And I promise you that's what they're going to be showing over and over again yesterday and throughout the weeks coming up. And this is the standard now. You've shown it. Congratulations. Now we've seen you can do it. And this is what this team needs.
Spinning it forward to this game against Cincinnati, the job defensively would appear on the surface to be considerably different than what they encountered this week in Pittsburgh. But that being said, Mitch, would you be surprised if I told you that the Cincinnati Bengals ran it 33 times against the Baltimore Ravens on Thanksgiving last week?
It would not, just because I gave it a look. But yeah, listen, this is a team that historically, especially with Joe Burrow at quarterback, is pass happy. And I still think they passed it almost 50 times.
Right.
But if you have a team that can rush for 133 yards, which I think is what they did against the Baltimore Ravens, a historically pretty stout defense themselves, that's a team that's dangerous. That's a team that you don't want to play right now, especially with Joe Burrow at the helm, and a team that, yes, they might be out of contention, but they're there to bust brackets, have nothing to lose, man. So what you do is you hunker down, understand what you're walking into, which is a Cincinnati team that's given this team in the past a little bit of trouble. But what are you going to do? I think you have a great game that you can look back at, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers game, and just kind of go back and say, this is the standard. We've seen it. It's a beautiful thing, both offense and defensively. This is the standard. And another guy, this is just kind of a random thought, but something that jumped out of the screen was that if this team can get Shaq Thompson on the field as much as possible, that would be super duper, because he is a difference maker. And I'm not saying replace other guys or all of that. That's not my cup of tea. I love all the guys we have, but implement him, man. He was flying off the screen. He was thumping dudes. He had the Holy Spirit, and it was fun. I just, long story short, it was fun to see him play. And I just love the style of football that he plays. And it's exactly what this team needs. If you have a guy like that leading your defense and tackling, if you have a linebacker leading your defense and tackling, that usually means that something's going well. And I think that's what you saw this past weekend.
So you have the Cincinnati team coming in, and their defense has given up more points than any other defense in the league. So you feel like you're going to be okay offensively. Defensively, you've got to look at their offense and say, man, they're a wagon. We got to do something. So, and this is where and I'm finger quoting, the complementary football thing. You beat a team like Cincinnati with both sides of your club, right? So you get an offense out there that, like we saw in this Pittsburgh game, they had 3 drives of 14, 15, and 16 plays. They had a drive that took 9 minutes. They all in the last half of that game, they had 3 possessions or 4 possessions. They had 42 minutes of possession time. I mean, is that kind of the game plan where you want to keep the other offense off the field, limit their chances, maximize yours, or is that trying to play it a little bit too cute and just go out there, put your foot on the gas, score when you can score because this defense isn't that good, and then do what you can do with the rest? I mean, what's your game plan philosophy going into this game?
Yeah, Steve, I would go with the former out of those two options, right? You don't take any team lightly, and I know that's also coach speak, but it's the truth. Anyone who watched this Ravens-Cincinnati game realizes this is not the same team that started off this season. Whatever's going on in that building, if it's Joe Burrow back or it's just kind of the season's falling into place for them, they're playing inspired football. What I like about not only the time of possession, especially with Joe Burrow on the other side of the ball, is that usually that means your run game is performing at a level that's conducive for winning football games, wearing defenses out, keeping offenses on this, their opposing sideline. So, yeah, dude, I think, not to say that this team is exclusively running 51 times. I think that was just kind of an anomaly. But, who says don't pound the rock? You don't have to take these sexy long ball shots. It's not this team. That's okay. Score points, get your defense a breather, and keep the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands, man. We've just seen it year after year, time and time again. The guy's a special player. Call a spade a spade. And with those weapons, and you'd say a team that was historically one-dimensional, yeah, they ran for 133 yards against the Ravens last week. So, yeah, I think you accentuate what you do well. And time possession, I think, is one of the more underrated statistics in the NFL.
Is there any merit in inviting the Bengals to run the football?
Oh, yeah, dude, absolutely. I mean, I don't know T. Higgins' status, right?
Right.
You have a generational talent like Jamar Chase, and then you got a guy who's been throwing it to him for the last decade or so, Joe Burrow. Do everything you can, right? I do think this is going to be a big game for Cole Bishop. Let's just call it how it is. I think this could be a really tone-setting game for his career, and yeah, I would like to see the boys find a way to make them one-dimensional running it, but they're going to be airing it out a little bit. And I'm excited to see the young players, that secondary. I mean, Christian Benford coming off the game he had, holy cow, just let's get the ball rolling with this. Let's see how it goes.
Mitch, thanks for the time, especially on vacay. We appreciate it. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thanks, Mitch.
You guys are great. I appreciate you guys.